You've been doing everything right, sleeping enough, eating what you think is healthy, exercising when you can. And yet, something isn't working. The weight won't budge. The energy is gone by 10 a.m., and your doctor keeps saying the same thing. You're just getting older. What if that's not true? What if the problem isn't what you're eating, but when? What I'm about to show you happens inside your body right now, silently, invisibly, and it changes everything. Here's something nobody told you in your last doctor's visit. Right now, even if you slept 8 hours, even if you ate a salad for dinner, your body is producing almost no growth hormone. The hormone responsible for repairing your muscles, burning your stored fat, and keeping your brain sharp. Not because you're old, not because something is broken inside you, because of when you last ate. That's the whole thing. Timing. And once you understand the biology, really understand it, step by step, you will never look at your morning routine the same way again. I want to walk you through exactly what happens inside your body during a 16-hour fast. Hour by hour, stage by stage. The science is real, the researchers are credible, and by the time we're done, you'll have a 3-part protocol, I call it the noon reset, that you can start this week without buying anything, changing your diet, or suffering through a single boring meal plan. But first, let me tell you about a moment that changed how I think about all of this. 5 years ago, I had a cardiac event. I was 52. I wasn't overweight by the charts. I wasn't diabetic. I exercised. I did most of the things you're supposed to do. And I still ended up in a hospital bed, watching a cardiologist explain stents to me like I was a plumbing diagram. The medications helped. The surgery helped. But here's what my cardiologist didn't say in any of those follow-up visits. That a specific pattern of eating, not what I was eating, but the hours I was eating in, was quietly inflaming the metabolic conditions that got me there. My wife found a researcher named Sachin Panda at the Salk Institute. She stayed up reading his papers at 2 a.m. She'll tell you it was obsession. I'll tell you it was love. And she walked me through the mechanism until it clicked. I'm not here to tell you fasting reverses heart disease. I don't know that, and I won't say it. But what I will tell you is this. The biology of meal timing affects every risk factor that contributed to what happened to me. Insulin levels, inflammation, body composition, metabolic flexibility. The science is real, and it belongs to you. So let's start at the beginning. Stage number 1, the delivery rush, hours 0 to 3. After your last meal, it's 8 p.m. You've just had dinner. Your digestive system fires up like a loading dock after a big shipment. Your blood glucose rises. Your pancreas releases insulin, the hormone responsible for unlocking your cells and letting glucose in. Now here's the part they don't teach in health class. Insulin isn't just a key, it's also a lock. When insulin is high, your fat cells seal shut. There's a hormone-sensitive enzyme inside your fat cells called lipase that, when active, physically breaks apart stored fat and releases it into your bloodstream as fuel. Insulin suppresses that enzyme completely. Think of it this way. Insulin is a factory manager walking the warehouse floor. While the manager is there, no one touches inventory. The moment the manager leaves, meaning insulin drops, the warehouse doors open, and your body can finally pull energy from its own stored fat. If you eat dinner at 8 p.m. and then have a small snack at 10, and wake up and have breakfast at 7 a.m., that manager has been on the floor for 13 to 14 hours. The warehouse doors were never really open. But here's what gets even more interesting, and honestly, more urgent for anyone over 50. Stage number 2, the night shift begins, hours 3 to 7. It's now somewhere between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. You're asleep, and your body has quietly switched modes. Insulin is falling, not gone yet, but dropping toward baseline. Your liver, which packed away glucose as glycogen earlier in the evening, is now slowly releasing it back into your bloodstream, just enough to keep your brain running through the night. Here's something that should genuinely impress you. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's total energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. While you dream, while your hippocampus files away memories from today, while your emotional brain sorts through everything that happened, that process never stops. It needs continuous fuel, and your liver is quietly providing it, all night, without you doing a thing. The idea that you need to eat breakfast the moment you wake up to protect your brain? That's not physiology. I'll explain where that idea actually came from in a few minutes, and it'll make you angry, but it'll also make you laugh. But first, something extraordinary begins happening at around hour 5. Stage number 3. The warehouse opens, hours 7 to 12. This is where things start to get exciting. Insulin has now dropped enough that your fat cells are beginning to release stored fatty acids into your bloodstream. That lipase enzyme, the one insulin was suppressing all night, is waking up. Stored fat is being broken apart, released, mobilized. This is called lipolysis, and it's happening in your body right now, while most people are sleeping through their most productive fat-burning hours, completely unaware. Those fatty acids travel through your bloodstream to your muscles, your heart, your organs, anywhere they can be used directly as fuel. And here's where the biology does something almost magical. Your liver begins taking some of those fatty acids and converting them into molecules called ketone bodies. These molecules can cross the blood-brain barrier. Your neurons, the same neurons that were running exclusively on glucose an hour ago, can now use them as a direct fuel source. This is the metabolic switch. Your body has been carrying this capability your entire life. It's part of your ancestral hardware, built over millions of years of evolution when food wasn't guaranteed 3 times a day. For the vast majority of human history, this switch flipped regularly. Here's the problem. Research suggests that people who never flip this switch lose efficiency in the underlying machinery over time. The mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside every one of your cells, become less flexible when they only ever run on one fuel source. Scientists at the National Institute on Aging found that people who regularly practice metabolic switching show improved insulin sensitivity, reduced blood pressure, and measurable reductions in inflammatory markers. Most people over 50 have lost significant metabolic flexibility, and they feel it as mid-morning energy crashes, brain fog before lunch, and weight that doesn't move despite a healthy diet. It's not age, it's the switch never getting flipped. Stage number 4. The cleaning crew arrives, hours 12 to 14. Now we enter the part of this conversation that I find genuinely mind-bending. At around the 12-hour mark of fasting, a biological process called autophagy kicks into high gear. The word comes from the Greek. It literally means self-eating. And while that sounds alarming, what it actually means is one of the most beautiful things your body does. Your cells begin identifying damaged proteins, worn-out mitochondria, cellular debris, the biological equivalent of old, broken furniture piling up in a house. The autophagy pathway tags each piece, breaks it down, and converts it back into raw materials your cells can reuse. This isn't destruction. This is renovation. The scientist who cracked the mechanism of autophagy, a Japanese cell biologist named Yoshinori Ohsumi, won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2016. This is not alternative medicine. This is the highest honor in science. Here's what the mainstream wellness conversation almost entirely misses about autophagy. It requires fasting to really accelerate. There's a cellular signaling pathway called mTOR that keeps autophagy suppressed when you eat, because when food is available, your body prioritizes building, not cleaning. Every time you eat, mTOR stays active. Autophagy stays quiet. It takes the 12 to 14 hour mark, insulin low, glucose low, amino acids clearing, for that cleaning crew to really get to work. Research published in the journal Autophagy documented measurable increases in autophagy markers in human blood at the 16-hour fasting mark. Studies in animal models show that chronic suppression of autophagy, which is exactly what constant eating produces, is associated with accelerated accumulation of damaged proteins in the brain, the kind of accumulation linked to neurodegeneration. I am not saying fasting prevents Alzheimer's. The human clinical evidence is not complete enough to say that. What the evidence does show is that the mechanism is real, reproducible, and being actively studied by some of the most credible neuroscience labs in the world. But now, I need to stop and tell you something that's going to change how you see every cereal box you've ever read. Because for the last 100 years, someone has been lying to you about breakfast. And the story of how that happened is almost too perfect to believe. The breakfast betrayal. You've heard it your entire life. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's on cereal boxes. It was cited by your pediatrician. It was taught in schools, repeated in every nutrition campaign of the 20th century. Here's where it actually came from. In the early 1900s, a man named John Harvey Kellogg, yes, that Kellogg, was a major public health figure with genuinely held views about diet and health. He was also selling breakfast products. The campaign to medically legitimize breakfast was amplified throughout the 20th century by food manufacturers who had billions of dollars of motivation to make you believe that skipping breakfast was dangerous. By the 1980s, this message had been so thoroughly absorbed into mainstream medicine that it became clinical received wisdom, not because the evidence supported it, but because the institutions that were supposed to evaluate the evidence had been swimming in that water for decades. In 2019, the British Medical Journal, one of the oldest and most respected medical publications in the world, published a systematic review of 13 randomized controlled trials on breakfast consumption. Their conclusion? No consistent evidence that eating breakfast aids weight loss or metabolic health in adults. In fact, some studies found that people who skipped breakfast consumed fewer total daily calories without compensating at other meals. The breakfast narrative is not a scientific finding, it is an industry artifact, a very profitable one, and you've been setting your alarm to serve it for most of your adult life. Stage number 5. The deep work. Hours 14 to 16. We're almost at noon now, and your body is doing something remarkable. Human growth hormone, the hormone that builds and repairs muscle, drives fat metabolism, and supports bone density, is surging. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism documented that a 24-hour fast produces growth hormone increases of up to 1,300% in men compared to a fed baseline. A 16-hour fast produces a smaller but still substantial spike, and that spike is happening right now, in the late morning hours that most people spend feeling guilty about skipping breakfast. This is important for anyone over 50. Because one of the biggest fears people have about fasting is, won't I lose muscle? Here's the answer the research gives us. Short-term fasting, 16 to 24 hours, does not cause muscle breakdown the way prolonged caloric restriction does. Growth hormone during fasting acts as a protective signal. It tells your body, preserve the muscle, burn the stored fat. Evolution was very clear about this. It didn't design you to waste lean muscle just because your next meal was a few hours away. A study in Obesity Reviews found that time-restricted eating preserved lean mass significantly better than standard caloric restriction, producing the same total calorie deficit. The mechanism? The growth hormone surge. Built in. Free. Available to anyone willing to let the clock run a little longer before breakfast. And simultaneously, something equally remarkable is happening above the neck. A protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is rising in your brain. BDNF is essentially a fertilizer for brain tissue. It promotes the survival of existing neurons and the formation of new neural connections. Low BDNF is associated with depression, cognitive decline, and reduced neuroplasticity. Neuroscientist Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging, one of the most cited researchers in this field, identified intermittent fasting as one of the most reliable dietary stimulators of BDNF in both animal models and human studies. And norepinephrine, the neurotransmitter tied to focus and alertness, rises during fasting, which is why the late morning hours of a 16-hour fast often produce a sharpness of mind that most people don't expect. Not hunger-induced desperation. Clarity. I know this sounds backwards. We've been told that an empty stomach means a foggy brain, but the biology says the opposite, provided your metabolic machinery is flexible enough to run on ketones. And the way to build that flexibility is exactly this: doing it consistently, letting the switch flip, and giving your mitochondria practice running on both fuels. The science of gut health. There's one more piece of this story almost nobody talks about. Your gut has its own nervous system. Over 100 million neurons lining your gastrointestinal tract, sometimes called the second brain. And that second brain has a cleaning cycle. It's called the migrating motor complex, a wave of electrical activity that sweeps through your small intestine roughly every 90 minutes during fasting, clearing bacteria, debris, and undigested material. Scientists call it the intestinal housekeeper. Here's the catch: that housekeeper stops working every single time you eat. Even a small snack interrupts the cycle. People who graze continuously throughout the day, eating every 2 to 3 hours from morning to night, essentially never let their intestinal housekeeper finish a single round. Over time, this has been linked to small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, bacteria that belong in your large intestine migrating upward, causing bloating, gas, and disrupted nutrient absorption. A 16-hour fast gives that housekeeper multiple complete cycles every night. Your gut, your brain, your metabolism, your immune system, all of them have something to gain from this window of quiet. The Noon Reset Protocol. All right, you've waited long enough. Here is the Noon Reset. 3 components, 3 letters, NOO, narrow, optimize, offset, N, narrow. Compress your eating window to 8 hours or fewer, beginning no earlier than noon. Your first meal, noon. Your last meal, no later than 8 p.m. That's a 16-hour fasting window, and that's the threshold where the research shows consistent metabolic switching, meaningful autophagy activation, and substantial growth hormone response. One common mistake: people count backwards from when they stop eating at night and tell themselves, "I fasted 12 hours, that's basically the same." It's not. The biology isn't running on a technicality. It needs the full window to complete the stages we just walked through. O. Optimize. This is about protein, specifically getting enough of it inside your eating window. Research from McMaster University, led by one of the world's leading experts on muscle and aging, shows that protein intake is the single most important dietary variable for preserving lean mass after 50. The target: a minimum of 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, distributed across your 2 meals. For an 80-kilogram person, that's roughly 96 grams of protein, nearly double what most adults over 50 are actually eating, according to national nutrition surveys. Fasting without hitting your protein target is like giving your body all the right hormonal signals and then providing no raw materials to act on them. Don't do the hard part and skip the easy part. O. Offset. In the hour before your first meal, ideally between 11 a.m. and noon, do something that moves your body. A 20-minute walk, a brief bodyweight circuit, anything that modestly elevates your heart rate. Here's the mechanism. Fasted exercise causes glucose transporters inside your muscle cells to migrate to the surface. When you eat your first meal afterward, your muscles are significantly more receptive to absorbing that glucose, by approximately 30%, according to research published in the Journal of Applied Physiology. This is the metabolic primer. It takes 20 minutes. It compounds every single day. Do not skip it. A specific window, a specific protein target, a specific movement practice. That's the whole protocol. Not because someone invented a trick and worked backwards to justify it, because the biology of what happens inside a fasted body, stage by stage, points directly to these three things as the natural response. I want to be real with you about the limits here, because I'm not interested in selling you a protocol without trade-offs. Fasting is not for everyone. If you have a history of eating disorders, please don't practice time restriction without clinical guidance. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, this is not for you right now. If you're on certain diabetes medications, particularly sulfonylureas or insulin, extended fasting carries genuine hypoglycemia risk, and you need to talk to your doctor before changing your eating schedule. These aren't disclaimers to cover myself legally. These are real categories of people for whom this protocol could cause harm. There's also an honest scientific debate about whether the benefits of time-restricted eating come from the fasting state itself or simply from eating less food overall. The most truthful answer: probably both. The hormonal environment of genuine fasting appears to produce benefits beyond what caloric reduction alone explains, especially with respect to growth hormone, autophagy, and gut motility. But people who eat in a compressed window also tend to eat somewhat less total food. Both mechanisms likely contribute. The practical implication: the fasting window is not a permission slip for the eating window. 8 hours of processed food does not produce the outcomes we've been talking about. Hunger. The honest answer. The question I get most often: what about hunger? Isn't the late morning miserable? Week 1. Yes, probably. Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is partly habit-trained. If you've eaten breakfast at 7 a.m. every day for 20 years, your ghrelin will spike at 7 a.m. on day 1 of the noon reset. That's real. The discomfort is real. But here's what makes this different from willpower. Ghrelin is one of the most adaptation-responsive hormones in your body. Research on meal timing shows that ghrelin patterns shift significantly within 7 to 14 days of a new consistent eating schedule. The hunger that feels unbearable on day 3 is genuinely reduced by day 10 for most people. This is not a pep talk. This is receptor downregulation and hormonal reentrainment, documented, measurable, and temporary. The discomfort passes. What it leaves behind doesn't. Let me leave you with this. By the time you reach noon on a 16-hour fast, without drugs, without meal plans, without suffering, here is the state your body has quietly built. Insulin is at its lowest point of the day. Your fat cells are open. Your liver is producing ketone bodies. Growth hormone has surged. Autophagy is renovating your cells. Your gut's cleaning cycle has run multiple times. BDNF is elevated. Your brain is running on a cleaner fuel. Your mitochondria have been asked to be flexible, and they're stronger for it. This is not a starvation state. This is not a punishment. This is the state your body evolved to enter regularly. And that a century of continuous snacking culture has been quietly preventing you from ever reaching. You are not broken. You are not just getting older. You have been given a body with extraordinary built-in intelligence, and the only thing standing between you and that intelligence is a few hours on a clock. That's worth your noon. If this video shifted something for you, If you're walking away seeing your body differently than you were 30 minutes ago, I want to know. Drop noon in the comments below. That's it. Just that word. I'll know you made it to the end, and I'll know this reached you. If someone in your life is tired, struggling with weight, or being told it's just aging, share this video with them. That share might be the thing that changes their trajectory. Subscribe to our channel if you want to go deeper. The next video covers exactly what to eat inside those 8 hours, the specific protein timing, the foods that accelerate the autophagy window, and the 2 things most people eat that silently undo everything we talked about today. The biology doesn't lie. And now, neither will your clock. See you in the next video.